Okay, this is the Tormach XS router. We have a control screen, an e-stop. You press this down and it triggers it. You release it by pulling it up on it. You've got your mouse, your 3-button control. We use that for zooming in and out. And we have our jog wheel right here. Now the jog wheel is actually a really nice setup here. You've got the ability to move it in the X, the Y, and the Z, and then you can step it so that you can control how fast it moves when you're using this incremental wheel here. And actually each step on the wheel, you can feel there's like a little bit of resistance every time. It kind of clicks into place. Each one of those movements will correspond with the number of steps that we have on the actual Tormach display screen. So you can set it between 3/10 of a thou, every thousandths of an inch, and so on in bigger increments. So you just change the amount of increments, and then you carefully decide which direction you want to go in. If it's X plus, you'd be on X, and then plus would be clockwise, and minus would be counterclockwise. Same thing for Y and Z. So each time you move it, you'd be going, if you're on steps in 1/1000ths, you'd be going 1/1000th of an inch. This outer wheel right here is spring loaded. When you just start turning in the positive direction, it'll just start moving very slow, and as you go faster, it'll pick up the speed. So anytime you're doing a jog move, we call that jogging it, you always start off slow, make sure you're going in the right direction and you've got the right axes selected. We all make mistakes, but you start off slow, and that'll save you every time, most of the time. So now with the router itself basically ready to start up, you're going to reach around to the back and you're going to turn it on at the on switch here. You can see the light comes on over here, and their actual display screen will come and show the boot up sequence here. While that's coming online, I want to show you a couple of other things. These are the wrenches we're going to use, and we're going to use that to tighten up the collet on the spindle. Okay, the collet on this one is just this little one right here. It's just a little tiny collet. This is a 4mm collet if it's a 4mm tool. This wrench here is used to grab the hex on the actual collet piece itself, and this wrench is used to grab the flats on the spindle right here. Okay, so we have that in there. Now in the collets, we're going to put one of these 3 tools that we have here. This one here is our first tool. It's what we're going to use to do most of the machining and kind of roughing. And this one here is a 4x4 by 20 by 54, and that's tool 391173. What that means is it's a 4mm shank with a 4mm wide cut with a 20mm long flute length and an overall length of 54mm. Okay, so that's going to be our first tool. Next tool is this 4 by 2 by 12 by 45 39167, and this tool here is a small end mill. Okay, it's actually 4 at the shank and 2mm at the actual cutting diameter, with a usable flute length of 12mm and an overall length of 45. Our final pass, we're going to use this tool right here, which has a radius at the end of it of only 0.5 mils, and it goes to like a 1mm diameter here at the tip, and going up to a 10mm long flute. Okay, so it's a taper mill, and that's going to be used to do our final product. What we are making today is going to be this Happy Holidays Christmas ornament. So this is done in 3 operations. The milling operation was that bigger end mill. Is going to go around and mill all the pockets around here, and that's pretty much all it's going to do. It's going to take care of all that for us. The next tool is going to do kind of the heavy work, and it's running what we call a parallel toolpath. It's going to be going back and forth, and it's going to get about, I'd say, 95% of this done. Finally, our little taper mill is going to come in here, also running a parallel toolpath, and it's going to get into where that other tool, the 2mm end mill, couldn't get, and finish this off for us. Also, you're going to start off with a piece of stock, just your plain old stock. It's 1/2 inch thick, and it has a dimension of about 3 5/8 of an inch here, and about 7 3/16. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our stock when you get it, and I want you to look at the stock. This backside isn't as nice of a surface, so flip it over and take your stock this way. We need a center point on our stock, so one quick easy way to do that is to run your scale or your dollar store ruler across it and go point to point, and just need to draw a line somewhere in the center there. You don't have to draw it all the way across, because you're going to intersect these two lines. Okay, so you can pause the video and do this. That's just going to give us a mark, a starting point. I didn't have to go that whole length, but it'll get machined off. That's going to be our center right there. Okay, so we're going to pick up this point right here, and that's going to be our center. So do that to your stock, and then that's going to get brought into our machine now. Now that we have the basics covered, one more thing we have to talk about is the clamping on this. These clamps, if you look in your kit, you're going to have bolts that are about, these are the shorter set of bolts we're going to use right here. And the way this clamp works is one of these pressure points here is going to be on the table, and one of them is going to be on the stock. So it's going to end up being something like this. And we're going to spin this out a little bit here. So essentially, you're going to be against the table and grabbing the part at the corner like this. Not under here, but right at the tip. So this pressure can be applied right at the edge here. We're going to set that up at the machine now. So take your stock, make sure the bed is clean, put your stock in place. What you want to do is you want to center it between the two sides of the machine. Okay, so it's not going to be something that has to be particularly centered 100%. Just kind of eyeball it in between the two guide rails here, something like that. You're going to take your stock, which is there, and then you're going to clamp it down. So using these clamps, again, you've got this hex nut part here. This is going to go right into the end of this and slide down the track. Back off the nut a little bit more here, and then it fits over top of that area there. Just give it a little bit of a snug. The same thing on the other side. So the way this slides in is like there's an opening in the track here. You just want to take it from the side and come in this way. Right from the side and in this way. And over here, and make sure that this is lined up like this. This pivots in here. And then we're going to just start snugging it up a little bit. Not fully tight right now. Check to see that you basically have nice flush surface. The wood in the front of the bed are flush. That means that they're at the same depth, or you can't really feel a ridge there. And then snug up this side, that side, this side, back and forth a little bit, just to the point where it starts getting snug. Okay, that should be pretty good right there. So step one's complete. You've done that. Okay, now I just want to walk you through the actual controller screen a little bit. Okay, so what we have here is we have the main screen, the file menu. This is where we load our programs up from. Settings, okay, so this is where some of the settings can be seen, the Gcodes that are active. Offsets we won't talk about right now. Conversational, this is where you can program rectangles, pockets, drilling, threading, milling, engraving, all kinds of stuff. This is probing, another option we won't talk about right now. And our status screen, which is going to tell us if there's an emergency stop pressed, if one of our limits has been hit, meaning that the machine needs to be rehomed, that type of thing. And for that, you come get one of us. So back to the main screen here. This is our cycle start button is the button that will engage the program. Single block is a very important button. We're going to use single block to, when it's illuminated green here, it's going to step through the program one line at a time on the Gcode, and we'll see that shortly. These buttons right here, these sliders down here, are going to control how fast it's feeding when it's actually doing the cutter path. So the feed rate override slider, you can change it from going to 100 down to 50% or 10%, or you can, wrap it to 200%. Let's just say if you've already cut an area and it's clear of stock and you want to kind of override it, you can hit 100% again over here. RPM is the spindle speed, same thing, raise or lower it. With all these smaller cutters, we'll be running them on the higher side. Now this one here, maximum velocity override, it allows you to change how fast it moves on all the different modes, but what's really important is during the rapid move. So when it first comes in, before it starts cutting, it goes really fast, and you're going to want to bring this right down to 3, 4, 5% kind of thing, just so we can make sure that it's going to start off okay. If we have to stop the program, we'll hit stop here, and then we'll have to reset it and start it off again at the beginning. Over here you have your X0, Y0, Z0, and your reference X, reference Y, reference Z. So these buttons right here, they only show up when the machine's first turned on and the machine has not been homed yet. Okay, so that's what it's going to be. The next thing we're going to do is home the machine. Over here is your step buttons. This is what I was talking about with the controller wheel. So we'll just scoot this in here for a second, and we'll come over right over here. If you look at the step increments over here, I'm now changing them from 3/10 of a thou to 1,000ths to 10,000ths and to 100 thou increments. So every time you bump this wheel now here, if you were on 0.1, it's going to move it 10% of an inch or 100 thou, right? So that's quite a bit right there. So when we're moving and we want to move in small distances, I'd say 1,000ths at a time. So each spin of the wheel, each increment of the wheel, I should say, is 1,000ths of an inch. Okay. Now it's saying I can't move right now because the machine is in e-stop mode. Okay, so that's the next thing we're going to do, is we're going to home the machine. So what we have here now is the machine in its just started state. And the first thing we have to do is reference it so that it knows where its X0, Y0, and its Z0 is going to be. The part's already in here, the stock is in here, we have to reference the machine. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to reference the Z, because the Z is the spindle, and you don't want it to be down. It's right now, it's further down than it normally would be, and if we bring it over here, they're actually going to probably make contact. So we always reference the Z first. So when I hit reference Z, it's telling me here that once the machine is in its reset state, you'll be able to do that. So the e-stop's already out, but you can see on the screen here, it says the reset's flashing there. Now you can do two things. You can come over with the mouse and you can left click on it, or you can use the nifty touchscreen, and now it has reset. Okay, so the screen is reset now, and the machine will allow me to hopefully reference the Z. So when I did that, it's brought the Z up, touched the home switch, and come into position here. It now knows where the Z is. It's been referenced. Because of that, it's turned green here. So now we can reference the X or the Y next, doesn't matter. So we'll reference the X first. So it's in. Now we're going to reference. We also call that homing it. So you can call it home. So now X, Y, and Z are all referenced. Okay. I can get rid of some of these codes that are bugging me here. So I can clear a message, or you can use the touch screen on there, clear messages. Okay, so it's homed. The stock is in place. The clamps are tight. We need a tool in there, right? So our first tool, what we talked about, was going to be this 4mm end mill. We're going to take it out of its holder, and we're going to take it to the collet. Okay, and we're just going to place it in here. Try not to hold it by right at the tip because you may cut yourself. And we're going to put it down. For what we're doing, we don't need to do deep cuts, right? So we're going to keep it on the actual shank. This is the shank of the tool. We're going to keep the collet on the shank, but closer to the flutes. We're not going to, put it onto the flutes like this, but you're going to be close to the flutes so that it doesn't stick out any more than it needs to, and it doesn't need to stick out anymore for this. Okay, so we have our tool ready, but here's the thing. Getting it in back here is you reach over the machine and the part and everything like that. So there's an easier way to do that. So we'll show you how to jog the system now. Okay, so I'm going to go just onto the main screen here because it's going to show us a little bit on this screen about where it thinks it's at right now and where we're moving it to. So right now it's in this top left corner. It's homed in this position here. This direction is our X, this direction is our Y, and vertically is our Z. Okay, so if we go to our jog wheel right now, if you can see that in here, I'm going to press the X button. Now on this outer one right here, I'm going to go X plus, and I'm going to go slow at first. You can hear it making noise, but it's not really moving much. But if you look at the screen, it is moving in the X, slowly making its way from -3 towards 0. So here I am going, and as I turn it more, I can speed it up and move it faster and slower. Okay, so you have control of it, and you carefully control it that way. When I go into the Y here, the Y plus is this way and Y minus is this way. But the thing is that the table is what moves, not the spindle this time. So last time with the X, the spindle moved, but now it's the table that's moving. You always got to think about it in relation to the actual spindle. Okay, so with the Y pressed, I'm going to go Y plus, and let's just watch what happens. Nothing. Because the Y is all the way forward. The table's back here, but Y plus is up here. So I'm going to try Y minus. And here it's coming back this way. Okay, so it's going all the way, and it's going to, this is the range of travel that you have. And the nice thing is that we're off the table on the other side, which means our tool can come in and go across to make a cut. That's fully Y minus right there. So we're going to go, we're actually going to keep it there, Y minus. Now we're going to go to Z, and we're going to slowly bring Z negative. So we're going to start off a little bit and then start jogging it just so that we can bring the actual spindle down. Now we don't have to go that far down, but you can see how far it can go. The spindle can go all the way down to here. They're going to bring it back up again, just enough so that the tool spindle is visible, so we can get our wrenches on there now. Okay. Now if I were to e-stop it, I would use to press this button right here, and then I would have to reset everything again. Okay, so that's the e-stop, emergency stop of it. We're going to put the tool in. So when we do that, I'm going to change our little view a little bit more here so you can get a better perspective. Okay, and the collet is just going to get put up into here, and you can hold the spindle with one hand backwards a little bit first, so I can feel the threads kind of engage. You're doing all this by hand at first. And now I'm going clockwise with the spindle right now as I look down on it, and counterclockwise with the nut, just to kind of cinch it in place there. I'm going to take both my tools and put the wrench on like this, and take the other wrench and put it onto the actual collet nut. Okay, and then I'm going to, if I'm looking at it the way I'm looking at it, top down on it, I'm turning this lower wrench counterclockwise while I hold the other one stationary. And you're going to get it snug. You don't have to reef it down like crazy, but you want to kind of push against them together and get it snug. Okay, that's it. Now you've installed the tool. Now if I move the Y and I want to go Y positive right now, it's going to hit the stock. So I'm going to carefully show you a little bit about that. Y positive, and I'm going to just advance it just a bit. Okay, and you can see that if I keep going, it's going to hit. But I don't want you to do that. So you go to Z. Positive would be up, so I'm going to slowly turn the Z positive. until the tool goes up, and I know it's going in the right direction, so it's going to clear. Get that tool way up and out of the way. Okay, now I can move on the table. So I'm going to go Y positive. Okay, I'm going to go right to my X mark here now. So over in the X a bit, up in the Y a bit, and I'm going to start bringing the Z down. Z is going to go minus. I'm just going to come down kind of slow here. So as I approach near the end, I'm going to slow down on that. I'm going to switch back to X. But let's just say you forget to switch, and you go, okay, I'm going to go over, but you didn't, and you were in Z, so I just wheeled it into X plus, which I want. Well, I might crash into the part if I'm still in Z. I'm just going to go nice and slow, right? So what you can do is, what we want to do is we want to center it over the center of this part here as good as we can. And we're just doing this kind of by eye, right to the center of the tool. Okay, so what I do is I look at the end mill from flute tip to flute, the actual cutting surface of the end mill, and then I rotate it 90 degrees, and I look at it from the side over here, and I determine if I have to go make any changes in the Y, and I do a little bit. So now I'm going to switch to step mode, and I'm going to make sure I'm in thousandths of an inch, and I'm going to use this little wheel right now. So I'm going to wheel it Y plus a couple notches. That was 3 thou. 3 thou looks pretty good. Now I'm going to go back in the X. I'm going to spin the end mill so I can see flute to flute in the X direction. I know I'm in X. I double check that I'm in the right step mode, and I went over a little bit. Now I'm in Z, and I'm still stepping, so I'm going to go Z negative, and I'm going to bring it down slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's pretty close to where I want to be. I'm kind of right over my mark. That's all I want you to do for this one, because that doesn't really matter how close we are there. I can even change the increments to 3/10, that first mark on there, and I can get it a little closer if I want, but to be honest, I'm pretty happy with that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to touch off the tool to the stock, and we're going to use the paper method. So in here, there's a gap still, right? Because we didn't get that close down. We're going to make sure we're in 3/10 of a thou now over here. I'll show you that quick. So right here, we're in 3/10. That's our step mode. So with that and the wheel in front of me, making sure I'm in Z, and having this piece of paper here, I'm going to go slightly one notch at a time. I'm going to go Z negative, which is dropping the tool downward in the Z ever so slowly until I start to feel some resistance on the paper. Now the paper itself is about 4/1000ths of an inch thick. Okay, so we're only going 3/10 of a thou at a time, so it's taking a little while. You can take a look at the, that's starting to get tight here. So a little bit more back and forth. Okay, I can feel it start to grab. Really starting to grab the paper. So now it's grabbed. I can't really get the paper out now. I'm going a little bit plus. That's pretty good there. So right there, it's about 4/1000ths of an inch above the part. What you're going to do is you're going to say 0 it here, and then in this window I'm going to go on my keyboard, I'm going to press 0.004, and I'm going to press enter. So now on the screen it's 0.004 of an inch positive. It's telling it that, yeah, I am just a paper thickness away from the top of the stock. So what we've done is we've zeroed our tool to the part. So it says I'm going to the top of the part. It knows exactly where the top of the part is. And while we're here, if you recall, we put our X and our Y in their center place too right now. So that is going to be our new X0 and Y0. So we've centered it on the part, and now we got to tell it we're at X0 and we're at Y0. So essentially, we're telling it where to start. X0, Y0, Z0, or Z.004. Now, this is saying X0, this is saying Y0, and Z0. That's where it's at. Now that works because the program is also calibrated to start there and call that X0, Y0. Okay, so you always have to know what your program is, but we're going to give you the program today. So I'm telling you how to set it up. So now the next step is important. We're going to go into our Z, and I'm going to use this incremental mode. I'm going to step it over to 1/1000th of an inch, but I'm going to think about it. I'm going to say I want to go positive. Z positive is up. So I'm going to start doing this, and I'm going to watch it carefully to see where it's going. It's not crashing into the part, and I can see there's a gap starting to form down there. So I am going in the right direction, and once I'm confident I'm good there, I can switch to the outer wheel and go Z positive here. Okay, so I'm going to get that up and out of the way, definitely above where the clamps are at. Great. So to review, you've started the machine, you've homed it so it knows where it was at back there, you've clamped your part in, you've checked to make sure it was flush, you've brought the tool in, touched off the tool, told it where its Z0 is, brought X and Y to the center, and zeroed them too. So now it knows everything about how to start. So you're ready. You're ready to start it. I'm going to show you how to load the program. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go to the File menu, and we're going to insert the program through this SD card right here. Before you insert it, make sure you click on USB, and it'll prompt you to plug in the USB drive. You can then scroll down on the USB drive, and you should find the file 1701 NC, and you're going to copy that over to the programming space on the actual Tormach controller. So that's 1701 right here, and then when we have that, you click on it and you go load it. And once we've loaded that, we can go over to the main, and it's going to show us, looks like the right program. This is what you should see, but you'll eventually see the tree getting drawn as well. Okay, so that being the case, we've got it loaded. We can actually eject. If you need to give it to somebody else, you could eject the USB because it's now loaded into the controller. Okay, so now that the program is loaded, we'll basically going to start it soon here. We're going to close the cover. The cover has to stay closed while it's operating. Okay. When we first start it now, as mentioned before, make sure that the max velocity is set very low. I've got mine at 4% with the slider here. We're going to go to single block. That's going to let us step it through one at a time. I'm going to hit cycle start. Cycle start again. Cycle start again. When I hit cycle start again, it's going to turn on the spindle. Okay, so we're running at 15,000 RPM. Cycle start again. We're going to watch to where it goes to. And if we look at our actual diagram here, you can see it's asking it to wheel it out to this corner over here. Now, this is a rapid move, but it's moving nice and slow right now because we're at 0.4. If I were to go a little bit faster, it would jump to that area a lot faster. Now, here's a G0 Z.6. So this is where it's really important that we go down slow. Okay, so you can see the tool in the distance over here in the background, and it's just starting to make its way down towards the part. Nice and slow. It's going to take it to Z.6 of an inch, and then the next one it's going to say cycle start to Z.2 of an inch. That looks about right. Okay. And then the next one is going to be G0 Z.01. Okay, so we're going to do that, and that should take us to just above the part. Actually 0.1, I should say. Now it's going to start spiraling in and making its first cut. So here we go. Cycle start. And at this point it's looking pretty good. I'm going to turn single block off. It's going to start running. So if you have to stop it at this point, you have to hit the stop button. or the e-stop, but you can use the stop on here and come get one of us. So cycle start, and it's running now. So again, have the max velocity turned down to 3%, and then we'll watch it actually running. Now that's going a lot slower because the max velocity is turned down. Okay, so I'm going to up the max velocity. We're now at 11%. Okay, so that's 26% on the max velocity right now, and let's just leave it at that for now, okay? These first cuts are taking enough material off. You can just kind of watch that. So it looks like you can run about 50%, and it still keeps the feed rates per the programmed amount. Okay, now you can just watch and enjoy for now. At some point, you'll have to do a tool change after this process is done, and we'll do that and then restart the program. Okay, so now we're at the point where we need to do a tool change. We've completed this one task. We're going to grab the vacuum and we're going to see what we got. So you can see you've got the outer part cut for your image here. We're in the middle of a program. It's going to ask you to do a tool change here. So if I bring it down here, I can say, I'm going to leave it in single block here, and I'm going to say cycle start, and it's going to ask for a different tool in here. Insert T11 into the spindle and press cycle start. Okay, so that's the part where we're at right here. So we're going to open it up again, and we're going to insert a new tool in here. Now to do that, we need to move the Z down. Now when we do that, we can't actually move it, so we have to hit stop on the program, and now we can move the Z. We're going to go Y, I'm going to move it minus, and then I'm going to go Z minus, making sure it's not going to hit the table. It's kind of still a little bit close, but it's clear. Okay. So time for a tool change. We're going to grab our wrench. We're going to hold the spindle with the small wrench, and we're going to put our other wrench on this way, right onto the actual collet nut, and just push them apart. Okay, and then I'm just going to grab the tool. I'm going to pull it out of the collet. If it's a little bit tight, you can open up the nut just a little bit more. Try not to touch the end. Don't want to cut yourself. Put the tool back in the holder. Say thank you very much for doing our roughing job. Just treat our tools with care. Tool number 2 was 39167. I'm going to take it out of its holder. I'm going to put it up into the collet here, all the way up. Spin this guy a little bit, nice and tight in there. Hold the top shaft, tighten it by hand. Take our wrench for the spindle itself, and then the one for the collet nut. Put it on this way like this. Tighten it towards the other wrench. Looking down on it, it's like counterclockwise. Now we have to touch off the part again. So with this X wheel, in X, I'm going to slowly go over in X, and then up in Y. So I'm over the part. I need to tell it how high the tool is, or how long the tool is. I'm going to go very slowly, minus in the Z, using the jog wheel until I get close. And then I'm going to switch to the step wheel, which is the inner one. I'm going to grab my paper, stick it under here, and start incrementally going down in the Z by 1/1000th of an inch until I start to feel it dragging. So make sure you're in 1/1000th of an inch increments. Okay, you can see the tool is coming down a little bit more. And there, it's starting to drag. There you go. That's good. Over on our controller, we're going to say Z is 0.004 high. Okay, so now our tool has been zeroed. I want to take it up in the Z plus, and I'm going to go very slow with this. Bring it up. Once I start to see I'm going the right direction, I can go further, bring it up and out of the way. I'm going to close. This kind of is important here. You want to find out which line we were on. Okay, so now after we hit the reset, we have to get the program back to where we need to go. And then, okay, so right here, code line N335570, that's where it's saying the tool change was done at. So we're going to bring the program right back to here. We're going to right click with the mouse button, right click, and we're going to say set start. Make sure you're on this line, right click, say start here. We're still in single block. Okay, so it's going to be the tool change line. We hit cycle start, and this next line, it should prompt you here to insert T11 into the spindle, which we did. Cycle start again. We're still on single block. Spindle turns on. Now our feed here, after a tool change, this is going to be a new rapid move. I want you to bring this back down to about 3 or 4%. Still on single block. Cycle start it and watch the actual tool. Cycle start and then hover over the stop, and also watch on the screen here. It's going somewhere that looks like it makes sense. So at that point, I can take that max velocity and I'll up it a little bit more, maybe 8%. Let's just see where it goes here, and I'll hover with my left cursor over the stop. Okay, we're in single block, so I have to hit cycle start again. Read the line of code. It's saying it's going to G0.6, and then it says it's going to go to G0 3 thou above the surface, so G0.003. Now it says a G1 Z minus 2.16, so it's going to go down, and it's going to go down quite a bit in the Z. So this is why we want to make sure we're going pretty slow here. Okay, there it went, and now it's going to start running across. We're going to also bring our feed rate down here. Let's bring our feed rate down to 25%. Okay, this is all just to be extra safe here. Okay, we're still in single block. It's looking okay. I'm going to hit single block off. 25% feed rate right in here. And hit cycle start. Okay. So that's looking pretty good. And if you look here on the right hand side of the screen, we are a feed rate of 14.7. Okay. And it's running around here. This is you checking things out before you get too crazy. I'm going to bring the feed rate up to 50% now. Okay, this is at 100% on the feed rate, but the feed rate didn't really change from that 14.8 because we're only at 8% of the max velocity. I'm going to bring that up. We're not going to go full tilt though. We're just going to go up to about 22 where we were at. (22, 26). And that's looking pretty good right now. Right, it's a very small tool. We don't want to do too much velocity on it. Okay, so match those settings and we should be good. Now this is a parallel toolpath. You can see it's running back and forth on the part, and it's already a 1/4 inch up it. It's got to go all the way across those 3.5 inches total. Okay, so we've made it to this next stage here, and it's looking for, I'm going to put it on single block. I want to hit it one more time here, and it's going to say insert T5 into the spindle. So we're going to open this up. I'm going to hit stop. I'm going to note the line number is 985010. 985010. It's right here on the screen for you. I'm going to hit stop. And now I'm going to go back in Y minus all the way to the end, and then Z minus, and bring this old tool out here all the way enough so you can see the spindle enough that you can change out the tool. We're going to grab it on the top, put the wrench on the bottom, turn it clockwise, the wrenches away from each other, spin it out a little bit more, and pull the tool out. Put it into the holder. Grab the last tool, which is our taper mill. Stick that up into the holder. All the way up and in there. Hand tighten it. Put our wrench on it. Now we're ready to zero this one. Just to give you an idea of what we got going on here. Make sure the tool is clear, which it is. We're going to say Y plus. But it's milled after the second operation. See, it doesn't look bad, but it doesn't really look that defined yet. So we're going to go ahead and move the tool back over the part. So Y minus, and X plus, and Z minus. I'm going to change my step mode to 1/1000th of an inch if I'm not there already, and I'm going to start hand wheeling it down using this part of it again, right? So just dialing it around, setting the tool, getting it close in the Z. So just using the Z, hand wheeling it down until it starts to get a little bit tight. So in the Z, I'm in the Z mode, right? Hand wheeling it down in the Z until it starts to get tight. That means I'm about 4/1000ths of an inch off. So a little something happened. The first time that I ran these, we actually had this part turn out. Now this was me setting the Z at 0.004 inch with a piece of paper in it, I thought. But I got this type of finish with the actual tool, and it actually has like a rippled sort of look to it, and it's almost like it's pixelated, but it's a neat look, and it actually really pops it out. So although I tried to set it at 0.004, when I went to go replicate it, what I got at 0.004 was a smooth surface here. Now this is harder to see because I tried staining it to look at it, and it still looks nice, but the surface here is smooth, and the letters don't quite look as nice in my opinion. So when I went to go back and try and figure out how to replicate this, I set it to 0.004 with a piece of paper in there. You know, the piece of paper I consider 4/1000ths of an inch, and then I, instead of putting 0.004, I put 0.008 above, so it would go down that extra 4/1000ths of an inch, and that is how I was able to sort of replicate this effect here. So if you'd like it like this, then check it with 0.004, like do the paper thing, but then put in 0.008 instead of putting 0.004. If you'd prefer it to be a smoother look, then go ahead and use the paper 0.004 and enter that into the into your Z right here, right? So if you're going to do that, then you're just going to go 0.004 and then hit enter. Or if you want the ripple effect, check it with a 4/1000 paper, but put 8 in instead. So in my controller over here, I'm going to put in 0.004 and hit enter. Okay, so the Z is now 4/1000ths of an inch above. I'm going to make sure I'm in Z. I'm going to go very slowly Z plus. Bring the tool up and away so it's nice and clear. Our Z is good. We're going to come down here. We're going to go back to the feed rate again. This is important. We're going to bring it down to about 3%. Okay, even this feed rate here, we're going to bring down to about 50%. And right on this line, we're going to right click. I left clicked on it first, then I right clicked. I said start at this line with no preparation. I'm on single block. I'm going to hit cycle start. And the next line, it should start the spindle up. Took a couple clicks there. The spindle's turned on. And now the next line of code here says G17, G90, and then G0X0. So here it's going over G0X 1.6, so it's making its way to 1.6 over here. And on this screen here, you can see that it's coming over this way. Okay, so it's looking pretty good there. And we're going along. We get up to this point here, it stops. Next line is going to be at G0.6. So that means it's going to approach the part again. And then the next line is G0.3, which means it's going to get really close to the top surface of the stock. And then the next line says a G1 and it's going to go below. So we'll watch what it does. Hitting cycle start. Okay, so it's right at that corner there. So at 53% and 6% on the max velocity, I'm going to take single block off and hit cycle start. Let it do its thing. It's following the same toolpath the last one did. So it's looking pretty good that way. I'm going to bump this back up the max velocity up to 22% for now. Let it go across a little bit, and we're going to bump the feed rate up to our 100%, and then you can go to about 38% on the max velocity. That's 60 inches per minute, and that's what we're going to run this at. Okay, so here you go. Look on the screen now. You can see it can calculate this. You can see the happy holidays right here. Let that record. Okay. Well, that's all she wrote. Let's have a look at it. Clean the machine off good. So to advance it forward, just hit the stop on the controller. Then we can take a look at our actual part here and what it's done. There we have it. Happy holidays. So just to set it up for the next person, what I'd like you to do is go Y negative, Z negative. We'll take our tool out. Looking down on it, I'm going to be pulling the wrenches away from each other, and that's clockwise with the bottom one. Pull the tool out. This is our taper tool. Okay, that goes in. That goes into this one here. 4x1. Put all your tools aside, and then we'll go Y plus. This is where we can take the actual part out. So you're going to loosen the clamps on either side like this. Just set the clamps down, and there's your part. Happy holidays. Now, to shut down the controller, you just have to go over to here and say exit. Let's say e-stop the machine tool before proceeding. Click OK to shut down. So e-stop. Click OK. And it's going to prompt you and tell you that you're all set to shut it down. And when you do that, you're going to go in the back and just shut it off. Close the cover, and you're all set.